Are we good? All right, hi everyone. Let me put this right. So my name is Pauline. I am the developer relation engineer at Wormhole. And so today we're going to have a little walkthrough, not just Wormhole is, but also what kind of interop solution we have out there. And one of the things that came quite important to me when I started in interop is that people assume that interop is only bridges, right? Like this is the main idea you have when you're like, okay, I need to go cross chain, and basically I'm going to use a bridge and I'm going to wrap an asset, and that's what I'm going to get. Well, there's a lot more solution in interop, and actually that is really not what I want to deconstruct, but I think we should stop making assumption that people fully understand how interop work, and just try to, just like start from the beginning and really understand what we're trying to do. So that was the intention. So beyond bridges, an advanced approach of building a multi-chain app. So these are the goals. So basically, what's the state of interoperability today? And why you might want to build a multi-chain app. This is one part of my job as a DevRel is also to do all the integration support. And we have very recurrent question, actually, when people come and they wonder whether or not they can integrate, and also what basically are the best solutions out there. So we're also going to talk a little bit about that. What are the trade-offs of using a wrapped asset? And Wormhole is definitely also a bridge. So I am not saying having a wrap asset is not a good solution. I'm just saying this is not the only solution. And based on what you're trying to achieve in your app, you might actually have a much suitable solution. And how Wormhole product addresses interoperability challenges, we can have a quick walkthrough. So that's basically what's the state of interop today. So today you have about 40 versions of USDC, right? So no need to say the liquidity fragmentation is an issue, but the UX is an issue. Before working at Wormhole, I used to work for a layer 2 or P-stack protocol. And also you had bridging. And it was always very confusing for users, for people, for developers. So this is something that has been an ongoing challenge, right, in the whole crypto world. Why interop? Well, first, cross-chain messaging operate at scale. And I don't know if you guys know, but Wormhole is basically the main cross-chain provider for BlackRock today. So when we mean at scale, we mean like institutional scale, okay? So just so you see today, we have about 1 billion messages. So when we talk about interop, we talk also about cross-chain messaging. 1 billion is about what has been gone through Wormhole. 50 billion is the value that's been facilitated by the bridge. So that is not a small market. I think, actually, I was looking into some stats, and I think combining all the different interop protocol we have, we are about like 75 billion of value that has been facilitated through interop. So this is a very important part of this ecosystem to understand. Also, cross-chain messaging is everywhere. The idea is that you might want to use a bridge just to send your token across 2 chains is definitely a valid use case, but you see it everywhere. There's token transfer, borrow and lending protocol use it, NFT use it, oracles to have actually on-chain, querying data on-chain is very important across many ecosystems. Governance, we have the Uniswap governance, for instance, is going through Wormhole. So that's also very important for voting power. swap, you name it. So it's not just I'm a user and I want to transfer my fund like that. There's many more use cases. So yeah, why you might want to go multi-chain when you build a product. So first is the user growth, right? You might want, and I'm talking by experience because as a DevRel previously in a ecosystem, usually ecosystems strongly encourage developer to, they're basically one native app, right? They want this app to be fully native in the ecosystem, and then maybe later go cross-chain. But that is really what every protocol is trying to do. Now, why would you want to make this step? So unless it is, let's say, unless it's something that is very important for your application from the beginning, which is not always the case, and most likely is not the case. But at some point, it's very important you understand that your users and the audience you're trying to get is probably not on the only chain that you deploy your application in, right? So user growth, scalability, TVL growth is very important, and this is why most of the people wants to go cross-chain, right? You want to go where your users are, but you also want to go where the money is. So if you are deployed on a chain and you cannot go anywhere else because you're stuck on that ecosystem, well, at some point you might need to make the move, right? So these are the most common question I get usually in a day-to-day basis. And I just wanted to make sure people understand clearly the difference and what it takes to use a bridge and create wrapped assets rather than deploying token natively multi-chain. So basically, it depends what your project needs. Do you want to keep a full control of your token contract? Do you want to keep every single parameter, every single, like the original design you made for your token? Do you want to preserve that? Do you want to keep ownership? Do you want to be able to upgrade? Do you have authority over your token? All of these questions are very relevant because most of the people, when they come to us, they're like, oh yeah, I just want to use the Wormhole bridge because I want my token up there and I want this to be facilitated by the protocol, which is a good use case. But what happens under the hood when you delegate your token contract via a bridge, like a token bridge, and not just Wormhole, any bridge, is that the token bridge contract will create a wrapped version of your asset, which means that you delegate the ownership of your token to the token bridge contract, right? So basically, in a nutshell, what it means is that you do not have ownership of your token once you have a wrapped asset. It doesn't mean that the token natively that you have deployed previously is not yours. It just means the wrapped asset version that is going to be locked and then minted on different chain. This belongs to the bridge because, it belongs. It is owned by the token bridge contract, okay? So a wrapped asset version of your token is not owned by you. So if you later on decide to change the metadata, for instance, of your token, well, you cannot do it because you don't own that. You don't own the wrapped asset version. Like, that's very important to understand. So that is one of the limitations of the asset. So if you end up with a token that you want to keep full control, full ownership, be able to upgrade any sort of security settings, then you cannot, it's not that you cannot, it's just like you have to know the trade-off. So this is one of the things we go over and over at Wormhole, and I know that other colleagues in other interop solutions also have the same question. So I just want to make sure that you understand that the best case for you to use the token bridge contract, for instance, is that you have a token, you want to make sure that in a few minutes you can deploy it and have it up and running on our portal bridge, and then you can transfer that across 40+ chain very quickly with zero friction, and it has taken you very little time and no particular implementation. Then you use a wrapped asset token bridge solution. Now, is this not what you are looking for, and you need a bit more specific, you have different needs, then I can walk you through what kind of solution exists out there. Okay, so what is Wormhole? So basically, the core messaging primitive is what Wormhole is built on. So everything we build on top of Wormhole is based on this core messaging primitive. But the idea, the main idea we have is actually to build a very modular stack. So think of Wormhole a bit like Stripe, right? Like when you go to Stripe, you have many different products, right? You don't have to use them all, but you can combine them all. It's very important that if you're a developer, our main goal is not to lock you in with Wormhole. Like, we have no intention of making developer come to us and then they're only able to use our stack and only able to use further products because they cannot do anything outside our own stack. You actually can use whatever you want from Wormhole. Everything is compatible. If you want to use, for instance, native token transfer with Connect, you can't. If you don't need to use Connect, then you don't. Like, that's basically our philosophy, is that the developer use what they need and nothing else. So these are the main products. I will go through the main one, which are the native token transfer, which is the main alternative to a token bridge, for instance. And then I will quickly go over the Wormhole settlement because it's literally been released about 2 hours ago. And I think it's our new intent protocol, and it's very cool. So let's say you are a developer who is in need. You want to deploy a token natively, multi-chain, and you must keep all authority. You want to maybe specify the rate limiting. You might want to add verifier, for instance. So you cannot really go through the token bridge, basically, the token contract, because you have different needs. Then in that case, you will use what we call entity. Entity is a native token transfer. So it's not a token standard. That also is very important to understand. Other interop solutions out there have their own token standard that you have to basically convert to be able to use their cross-chain protocol. We made the decision to not do this. So entity is a very flexible framework, and you don't need to change anything from your token design, right? You keep your token design exactly as it is. Entity will preserve token ownership, upgradability, and customization. So basically, anything you will want to change after deployment, you can also do it, right? Everything goes through a CLI. If you want to, you don't have to, but it's the easiest way. And so you will own the deployment. So you own, obviously, you have the ownership of your token, but you also have full ownership of every deployed contract with entity, okay? So security control, access role, rate limiting, posing, global accounting, all of this, you can also configure it. And I think one thing that people are often surprised with, and it's worth mentioning, is the flexible verification. So what basically is flexible verification is that to be able to use any sort of cross-chain messaging, obviously we verify that every transaction is valid, okay? But you can use the standard Wormhole verifier if you want. That is not a problem. However, some people, for whatever reason, often security reason, might want to use external verifier, right? That is very important that there's no lock-in to Wormhole. If tomorrow you want to run your own verifier, or you want to run a third-party verifier. Let's say you want to use another protocol that has verifier, like Axeler, you can combine that. You would just have a different threshold. So instead of having only Wormhole verifying your transaction, you can make okay, your threshold is 2 and 2, okay? Like the transaction needs to be verified by Wormhole and by Axeler. Actually, the wrap-stake ETH from Lido use that combo. So what they do is that they have the verifier from Wormhole, but they also have the verifier from Axeler. So actually, it's like very enhanced security. There's 2 main deployment models. But again, you can add your own if you decide so. But these are the most common ones. So you choose your deployment model. Either you have a burn and mint model, which is the purest form of bridging, really. So you will burn from on chain A, you will burn your token, and then it will be minted again on chain B, okay? Pretty much everyone who has a new token use this burn and mint model. However, there is another one that is usually most frequently used by existing token. So it's the hub and spoke. And hub and spoke is very similar to a lock and mint, let's say. But what it does is better for people who want to upgrade their original contract. Like that is a better solution for them. As I said, it's a modular stack, so you can use anything. If you want to use Connect as a small widget that we have that basically leverage the entity tech. If you want your own front end, you don't have to use it. Everything is built like this with Wormhole. I have 4 minutes, so I really want to go over the end of the presentation, so I will just skip that page. We have a SDK, of course. I just want to talk quickly, 3 minutes, about what we just released today. So basically, we released today Wormhole settlement. So it was live about 2 hours ago. So it's the next generation suite of intent protocols. So what it does is basically, I don't know if you are familiar with intent. So intent protocol is very similar to what a cross does, for instance, or the bridge. And intent refers to a transaction where a user simply states the intent without having to worry about the details. And a solver, which also is commonly called the market maker, but in intent we use the name solver, facilitates the intent and abstract away everything else that is involved. Basically, what you are able to do with intent is you can go a cross-chain swap, a swap plus an action, and it abstracts also all the chains. So it is the fastest today, the fastest way to make any sort of transfer cross-chain plus action. So let's say you go and you want to make a transfer. This kind of is very stressful, sorry. So you want to make a transfer from Base to Solana, and you want to first make a cross-chain transfer, but in the same transaction, so in one click, okay, you will have to make a cross-chain transfer. Then maybe you want to make a swap, because you want, for whatever reason, make a swap, and then you will have to deposit on a certain protocol, like stake, let's say. You would do all of this in one go, basically. That's what would happen. And what it would use is something that we call faster than finality. And basically, it means that the solver in the middle take a bid, accept the bid, process the bid before the finality on the original chain is completed. The problem with finality is that it can be very long, right? On Ethereum, for instance, it's 17 minutes. So when you deal with actually DeFi application, you do not have the time to wait for those 17 minutes for many reasons, like slippage and whatever. And so what you do with intent is that basically you go faster than finality. And the solver takes the bid, it takes the risk, and then it takes a small fee transaction. So this is what we have basically go live today with. So, and also, if you are a developer, we have hackathon bounties. So entity is what I just presented. And also, we have any build multi-chain dApp built with TypeScript SDK or the SDK, or any sort of actually direct core contract interaction will go. And then queries. Queries is like a very interesting product we have, and it's basically for having querying data on-chain. But extremely fast, under 1 second. So that is super, super interesting. If you want to build any sort of that need like aggregator, for instance, or anything you need for a full full on-chain data, and it's powered by Wormhole, and it's very easy to use. All right, so if you are a dev and you want to see any sort of tutorial, you can scan this QR code. This is where most of those implementations are done by guide and a tutorial. And yeah, you can find, I would also be judging the hackathon, and I would also be the main person to support any hackers. So if you have any question, please feel free to get my Telegram or time is up, okay, on my Twitter, and I will definitely get back to you. Thank you very much.